Okay, does it work?
Can you test it?
Yeah, can you guys hear me through the mic? Yeah? All right. Hello, everybody. How are we doing? Good. You seem very enthusiastic. There's lots of conversations already. This is kind of how the workshop is going to go. You're going to talk to each other a lot through this program. You're going to get to know each other. You're going to get ideas from each other. That's kind of the point of bringing everybody together. And so, there's a lot of pressure because it's recorded, and I need to be careful of what I say because it's going to last forever. Okay, so this first session is to really make you think about what you want to achieve by the end of these 3 days. We're going to try to solve all of your problems, of course. And so you're going to have a program that's ready to go and to implement. We're going to have draft of things. And we're going to provide you, during the session, we're going to build drafts. We're going to give you some times with your team to work on those drafts, to refine them and refine them. By the end of the 3 days, you have a pretty good draft. You're still going to have to work on it. But you have a pretty solid understanding of what you want to do and a plan to carry it out. And another thing I want to mention, throughout our session, we're going to try to model best teaching practices. And so you may already know about ABCD cards and things like that. And so we're going to do some activity, like we're going to do a gallery walk tomorrow. So we're going to give you some snippet of student-centered strategy that you could use either in your training or you could have your TA use in their own courses. And so, we're just going to try to model some behavior that you could yourself use with your own TAs. So let's see, the first session, it's called Principle of Instructional Design. And really the goal for this session is to introduce you to this idea of backward designs. How many of you have heard of backward designs already? Oh, that's great. It's a principle that's used in education to develop curriculum, to develop courses or lesson plans. It can go down from broad to very narrow. And then I'll show you how you will use backward design throughout this whole 3 days. We have kind of laid out things so that you will experience backward design. And then by the end of the session, you have a draft of the goals you have for your TA training programs. Okay, so like a very specific written down goals. And you will use that for the rest of the sessions. So the first thing we're gonna do, it's a little, what we call think, pair, share. How many of you know about think, pair, share? Not too many. So let me show you how we do this. So first, you think, okay? So read this little vignette, look at the question, and think for yourself. You can stand up in the back if you can't read. I see people like. Everybody has done some thinking? Yeah? So step 2, you pair. So you talk to your neighbor about your thinking. All right? You share your ideas related to the question with your neighbor. Okay? So pair up and share your ideas. I'm telling you, we're going to make you talk, so get ready.
It's going to be hard to get the first one through.
Right.
The second one I was thinking well, both of them would be motivating. Because the one has an ultimate goal, the other one is chemistry.
Right. So I was thinking the second one would be harder to advise because she doesn't quite know what she wants to do. And first one, she knows what she wants to do.
Right.
So what do you guys think?
She was thinking the first one, so might, but for different reasons.
Okay. What were the reasons?
What was your reason?
I was thinking because it's learning with doing something practical. So it makes it easier to understand. So it makes it easier to organize. But the second one, it seems that just problem solving, it's lore idea. So it would be hard to organize.
And
So-
she knows where she wants to go, so I can tell her she needs all these courses to get a BS.
Right.
The other one doesn't now.
It's easier when you have a goal, a clear goal. Right. Yeah. All right, so you've done some thinking, you've done some pairing, and what do we do last? We share everybody together. All right, so sharing. So can some groups share essentially their thinking about the question? So which one of these two students would be easier to advise? Yes.
She obviously has a love for chemistry. She just needs to fine-tune certain elements of her study degree, and so it's definitely easier to guide her because she already knows what she wants to do, whereas with Sophie, it's a little bit more vague.
Okay.
We said Katie.
So Katie has a clear idea of where she wants to go. She enjoyed chemistry.
Yeah.
Versus Sophie may not be as clear what she wants to do, so it may be harder. Different ideas out there? The same table, different ideas. Yes.
Actually, ours was very similar to theirs, but we felt that Katie would be easier to advise because in addition to clearly defined goals, there's clearly defined weaknesses.
Uh-huh.
You know exactly where the problems are. The first step to addressing a problem is defining the problem.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yes.
I would like to ask Sophie why she doesn't like the lab portion. It had nothing to do with the actual subject.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
to add on to that, I had originally thought Sophie because you could fine tune the labs to, if you wanted to develop new labs, to have more like world applications. If she likes chemistry to explain everyday phenomena, then changing the labs to be more, pop culture or relevant to them might help her enjoy labs.
Right. But do you still know what she wants to do? Yeah, I think Mike would be good.
Nobody could help her. Oh,
That's a surprise.
Doing my job. It's listening.
but if the labs were more in tune with what they were learning in class, that might be something to develop.
Right, that might help her understand where she wants to go and get her more interested. But yeah, so you got the idea, right? So Katie, the main thing she has that will help you if you're an advisor, and we probably all had some students like that in our offices, right? They come, they have a clear goal in mind, and then you can just stick your recipe on this is the course you need to take, and this is the extracurricular activities you need to have, and it's easy to advise. But then you also have seen students where they're like, I like math, I like physics, I like biology, I like chemistry, I'm good at everything, and I don't really know what to do. And that's much harder. It's much harder for us to advise those students, right? So the idea that I wanted you to get away from this is it's easier to plan when you have goals, right? So that's the whole point of this session. And I like what you said about identifying weaknesses, right? So being able to also identify where are the weak points, and then from there, laying out some goals. Yes?
So I just want to say that I'm kind of partial to the Sophies in the world, because particularly in this context of a college freshman, I don't think college freshmen should know what the heck they want to do. And I love the idea of struggling with a student as an advisor to try and figure out a direction she should try.
Yeah.
And be prepared to fail. And be prepared to have it not work out. Be prepared to go in a different direction. So I come from a place where the prevailing culture is really geared toward, we have pre-medical high schools, for crying out loud.
I know.
It's geared toward when you're in kindergarten, you're supposed to know what you're going to do with the rest of your life.
Yes.
And so I'm partial to the student who comes to me and says, they're bright, but they have the foggiest notion which direction they want to go. It's okay. I sort of relish the idea of struggling with that person and figuring things out.
No, and I would say I completely agree. I wanted to use this more like as a metaphor for taking you to the next step with the program development. But I completely agree with that. It's completely fine for especially a freshman to to explore the different ideas. I completely agree with that. I just want to take this as like kind of a metaphor of like putting you in a position where you probably have been, and you can realize that it's a little bit easier to plan things here than it is there, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible when you can work with the students. I completely agree with that. So,
we have one more question.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, what I was going to say is that what Sophie needs is some sort of real life experience that helps her decide not only what she wants to do, but maybe more importantly, what she doesn't want to do. So, I mean, that can be in the form of, you know, working for short periods of time, like internships, things like that.
Yeah, no.
Right.
Yeah, completely agree. I love how you are like really taking on Sophie and Katie. Like, no, let's help them out. That's very good. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Maybe the metaphor is too close to home. I need to find another different metaphor. All right, so the idea behind this is that we need to pay attention to, when we have goals, we can plan things more easily. That's the point. So if you have an idea of what you want to achieve, which you already thought about a little bit through your speed dating moment, but thinking about specific goals you want to achieve with your TA training program, that will help you plan it. And so this is, apparently I like metaphors, but you know, if your goal is to become an expert at archery, or your goal is to run the marathon, you're going to train differently, right? You're going to prepare yourself completely differently. And so depending on the goals you have, what you're going to engage your TAs with is going to be different. And so, but you have to think about your goal in order to know how to train, right? And so what we want to do during this workshop is essentially, again, another yet metaphor, identify what you want to work on in your TA training program, laying out the specific goals, and then figuring out how you're going to reach that goal. Okay? And so this kind of thinking or starting with the goals and what you want to achieve, that's the premise of backward design. Backward design, some people also refer to it as starting by the end. It's kind of taking your course design, your planning design upside down. Instead of thinking about what you're going to do either in your classroom or with your TA, what kind of activities you're going to engage them with. First, you think about what do you want them to learn? What skills do you want them to develop? So you start with your goals. Once you have those goals identified, then you figure out, okay, if these are my goals, how am I going to measure that my TA or the program is achieving these goals? In the classroom, you identify the learning goals for your students, and then you figure out, okay, what kind of assessment am I going to use to see if my students are reaching those goals? And then once you have done all of that, then and only then you think about, okay, what actually we're going to do during the training or the classroom in order to reach those goals, okay? And so this is kind of, we call it upside down because in general, we think about assessments, think about midterm exams, you know, at least I would say I think about it probably the week before, right? It's like, oh, there's an exam coming up. I should probably think about putting questions together, right? That's kind of how we usually approach course planning. And so this is putting things upside down. It's like, no, I'm going to have an idea of how I'm going to assess my students before I even plan my lectures. And so what we're going to do with this workshop is make you do the same thing, but with a TA training program. Think about the goals you want to achieve with your TA training program. We're going to think tomorrow about how we're going to assess, how we're going to give feedback to our TAs and to ourselves to see if what we want to achieve is working. And then we're going to think about, okay, what are we actually going to do to help us achieve those goals? Okay? So I think I had laid out. Yeah, so the people who design backward design, they have this saying, we're shifting from like me, the instructor, what I'm going to do and teach you, and you shift it from thinking more from the students or the TA perspective, right? What is the students, what are the TAs going to learn and be able to do as a result of the TA training program? So it's shifting things upside down a little bit. It's less about me, the teacher, it's more about the TAs and what we want for them. And so one thing that's very important and as highlighted in backward design is this idea of alignments. So the goals for your TA training program, just like your learning goals for your class, they need to be aligned with your assessment. So how are you going to provide feedback to your TAs or to yourself as program facilitator? And that needs to be aligned with what you're actually going to have them go through. Right? So everything needs to be aligned. Otherwise, there can be some problem can arise. And so I'll just give you a quick 2 example. So this is like tug of war, right? You have 2 teams on each side, you have a little flag, and you want to move it towards yourself, right? So that's your goal. You want to move the flag toward your team. Assessment, the way you assess whether or not that's working is by measuring the extent to which people were working as a team, right? And then what you learn to prepare you for this activity, for this goal of moving the flag, you learn about changing directions for some reasons, right? So you see, everything is misaligned. So what you're going to get is you're not going to be able to achieve your goal, right? It's going to be a complete mess. And so that's what you want to think about. I mean, this is pretty obvious, right? That they all don't make sense. But sometimes it's a little bit more subtle. So if we look at, for example, if we think about TA training program, looking at some feedback you wrote on the surveys and your intent, there's a lot of focus on student-centered teaching practices. Many of you either have new curriculum that put the TA in a position where they have to use those practices. Some of you just want to train them in using them. So I put this goal: TA will implement student-centered teaching practices. The way we will assess whether or not they're able to do this is by asking the students in the recitation, in the labs, you know, how much were you working with other students during those labs or recis? And then the activity is going to be, you're going to provide weekly lectures, and you're going to give them example of student-centered practices through lectures. Okay? So let's do an impromptu sync pair shares. So think, and well, you already kind of are doing that, but talk to your neighbors about whether or not this is aligned or misaligned. If the activities, the goals, and the assessment are all integrated with each other, or if there is some misalignment that could create some problems.
Is there any of the students TA getting the information?
I think during our class data
The level of work reported by the students, are they accurately evaluating their practices or behavior? So it may be insufficient assessment, and
I'm not really sure.
Level-wise. That's my opinion. I don't think they would be qualified to report the level.
because if it's going to be a free fall,
I think it's a miss.
I think that's tough.
So what do you think?
Well, for the assessment, the level of student group work reported by students, we feel like it would be too much free for not a qualified assessment by.
No, like hard to measure.
Yeah. I don't think I could measure that very successfully with that kind of assessment. To me, it's a lot.
Okay.
At least.
What about the activities?
well, because I mean, so basically you have this student-centered teaching. So the students are figuring out the problems within themselves, right? And if they're also assessing it, then I feel like there needs to be a mixture of the students are working it out on themselves and with a little bit of a guiding hand. And if there's no way to assess how far they've gone out or in, it might be a little bit difficult.
I think in the activity, I think it goes back to more traditional. That's just the way I read it.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. All right. So what do we think? Is this aligned or misaligned? And why? Why not? I mean, it doesn't have to be all misaligned. It doesn't have to be all aligned. What do you think? Yes.
The activity is aligned with.
Wait, the microphone is coming.
The activity is aligned with the goal.
You need to turn it on.
One more time.
The activity is aligned with the goal.
The activity is aligned with the goal. Why?
Because you're showing them what you want them to then implement so that they can practice it before they actually go into the classroom to implement it.
Okay. Does everybody agree? Yeah?
It may just be.
Hold on.
It's okay. We're going to make him run today. It's good.
It may just be semantics, but I thought the activity was slightly misaligned with the goal. I thought that rehearsing these scenarios or discussions might be a way for the TA organizer to lead by example in terms of how they want students to be involved.
Right. So you mean rather than lecturing?
Correct.
Like modeling the behaviors you want them to do?
Correct.
Okay. Other ideas?
It depends what's implied by the activity, but I think the student needs to learn how to do it and workshop that a bit. And then the TAs also need to learn how to do that and practice it. So if they're only being taught in that an instructor is teaching the students, they won't quite get there yet. So I thought there could be additional activities that would help the goal.
Right. So I think you're aligned with what Laura was saying, right? Like, not only telling them what they are, but having them experience what they are. That will make it more aligned. Okay. How about this? Yeah? He's coming.
So I speak for everybody if I say all three are actually misaligned.
Okay, go.
First of all, we in activities we didn't understand when it's talking about student-centered practices, is that TAs attend the lecture or students attend the lecture? Who are the students that are attending the lecture?
This is for TA training programs. So the lecture is like the workshop, the TA trainers. You
Okay,
are the lecturer, and the people attending the lecture are the TAs.
Right, then it's completely misaligned because it, just like people before said, because you using the wrong approach, you want them to be student-centered, but you're lecturing, so it's misaligned. And also the other one, I think assessment is also seems to be kind of weak because okay, so you tell students to do something centered around them and say, yeah, we had good time, it was awesome. but then there's no learning outcome, so assessment is also weak.
Yeah, okay. That's it. Does Emily afterwards? Yeah.
I think classroom and lab observation by the organizer would be a more aligned form of assessment.
Okay, we'll talk about observation tomorrow. Yeah.
So I don't think the assessment fits there at all because best student-centered teaching practices, group work is not the only one. So, and then also student reported. Do the students know what the best practices are? Like maybe, the TA put them in pairs to do a think, pair, share, and the TA considered that a group work, but then the students are going to be like, well, I was sitting here doing my thing and that guy was, staring at the ceiling. So if you're relying on the student report, that's not really a good assessment for that goal.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so we'll talk a lot about assessment tomorrow, and there may be some pros and cons with having students report that. I mean, clearly just having this as the only measure will not work. Students can report certain things, but I think everything you've said is right. Group work, they can be crappy group work, right? Group work can just be busy work and not meaningful group work. And so asking students, did you work in group during the labs? It tells you something. It tells you if the TA is actually doing some of that, but it doesn't tell you about the quality of the engagement that was provided to the students. And so this is something we actually hear a lot. People who go to workshops to learn about how to teach, usually and I'll say we as like the discipline-based education research community, the education research community, we're like, oh, you need to do like think, pair, share. You need to do a student-centered teaching, and here are examples of what you can do, but we are lecturing you about it, right? So that's why I picked that, because this is a problem in our own community, and so it's happening all the time. And so sometimes we just don't realize. We're like, well, we told them that they should do a group work in this fashion. Yeah, but they never experience it, so that makes it much harder to actually do it if you don't experience it for yourself. So that's why I put it this one. And so, okay, so this can create then some frustration with your TAs, right? They can be like, well, they wanted us to do this, but they barely told us anything about it, and then they're relying on the students. So that can create some frustration. So this is kind of a quick example to show you that it's important to think about your goal how you're gonna provide feedback to your TAs so that they can improve, and what kind of activities you're gonna engage your TA in. And so throughout this whole workshop, we're gonna walk you through this backward design to make sure that everything is aligned. Okay, so today and session 3, one that Melanie Cooper is going to do, we're going to make you think about your goals for your program. Today is going to be broad, and then Melanie is going to focus on self-image of TAs. Then tomorrow we're going to look at how do you provide feedback to your TAs about whether or not they're achieving those goals, and how do you provide feedback to yourself, the program designers, about your program and how you can improve it. And then the rest of the session is really going to help you think about ways, the kind of training you can provide, the kind of activities you can provide, and you're going to be able to pick and choose things that fits your goals. Okay, so throughout the whole workshop, we're going to walk you through all these steps. And so today it's about goals. So you're going to develop goals. You're going to draft a set of goals. So before we do that, we learned from last year, we need to make a realization that everybody has different needs, different ideas about what they want to achieve by the end of this program, which is going to impact the type of goals that you can develop. And so what we're going to do, we're not going to do peer instruction because there's not much to talk about, but we're going to do ABCD cards. Okay, it's one way, it's like the cheap clicker, right? If you don't have clicker, especially with TAs, you don't want the TAs to buy clickers, you can do a multiple choice question using ABCD. So the way this works, you fold the card, half, and then half. How many of you have played with ABCD cards before? Okay, some of you. All right, then what you do, you provide a multiple choice question, ABCD. If you have E, this is E. Okay. And then you ask them a question. Then you ask your TAs or your students in your class. You tell them, okay, think about the question. 1, 2, 3, vote. And you vote. Oops, microphone. When you vote, you want your TA or your students to vote in a way that's visible to you, but not to your neighbors. All right, so there's no like, what are they saying? Right, so it's a little bit more anonymous. And you don't get influenced by others. Okay, they 1, 2, 3, and you vote. And then you can see with the colors where if there's different thinking or not. Okay, and so this question is not a conceptual question. It's not require you to talk. But if it's a conceptual question or a challenging question, you will see that in your TA's crowd or in your students' crowd, there will be mixed answers, right? There's like 50% A, 50% B. So what you do, then you stop and you have them talk to each other. Like, okay, let's try to convince your neighbor that you were right? And you let them talk for like a minute or two, and then you have them revote. And usually what happens is that students migrate towards the right answer. And there's lots of research supporting this strategy. It's called peer instruction. And it really helps students, and in our case, TA, if you're talking about conceptual understanding of chemistry or physics as part of your training, that can really help them further understand those concepts. Clearly here, this is a very easy question, as you will see. There's no difficulty. So read the question. Is everybody ready to vote? Okay, on your mark, fold those little cards. 1, 2, 3, vote. Okay, and this is not something you do in your class, but look around. Right, there's D's, there's E's, there's yellows, C's, there's some A's. There's no right answer. Some people are like, am I the wrong answer? There's no wrong answer, right answer. This is what you want for your program. What I want you to see is the diversity of goals, right? Some people want to create a semester-long course. Some people want to create a short 2-day orientation before the beginning of the semester.
I'd like to see, could we see, let's do just the TAs. Would the TAs hold their cards up? TAs. See if they're TAs. So white means you're abstaining?
No, it's E, it's other.
Oh, other. Sorry, I have to read the instruction myself here.
We have a lot of D's.
Okay, yeah.
More D's.
Okay, and faculty. I mean, that's dominant. Oh, combination. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still the
Yeah. D's.
these. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
But these are, there's a lot of these, but there's a lot of other people as well. And so what I want you to realize when we're gonna have you work in groups to define your goals and everything, you may have different levels of goals based on what you want to do, right? So if you wanted to design a 2-day workshop versus a whole semester course, of course you're gonna have different types of goals, right? Different number and different levels of goals. And so I wanted to put this out there before we start talking with each other so that you're on board and realize that, well, my goals seem smaller than their goals. Well, maybe that's because you're doing something that's just, you don't have that much time on your hand within your department and you can only do an afternoon session, right? Versus they have like a year-long program, right? So that's okay. That's okay. You have to cater your goals to what you want to do, to your specific context. A little guidance on how to write your goals. So there is this little acronym that's called Getting Smart Goals, so that you can remember SMART. So your goal needs to be specific, right? You don't want to be too broad, because if they're too broad, you're not going to be able to do it. And so think about who you want to involve, what you want to do, why you want to do it. But it needs to be very specific. It needs to be measurable. So if you want your TA to understand, let's say, active learning practices, well, what does that mean? How do you know that they achieve that understanding? Do you want them to know about those things? Do you want them to be able to use them? What is that exactly? So when you write them, you need to write them in a way that you know you're going to be able to measure whether or not the goal is being achieved, because that's the only way you can give feedback to your TAs. And also that makes it very clear to your TAs what you want to do. You need to challenge yourself. You need to challenge your program in your department, but it still needs to be achievable, right? So try to push the boundary, but still in a way that you can do it. Relevance. So you're going to come up with different goals. So you need to make sure that all the goals are aligned with each other, right? So you're going to have short-term, long-term goals. The goals you create, they need to be in tune with each other, if you wish. And then it's nice to have a time associated with it. So you're going to have some very challenging goals that's going to take you a while to get there, all right? So you can say maybe a year from now, we will be able to do this. But this other goal, we can do that this semester, right? This fall semester, let's say. And so that one, we need to have it done by December. But this other goal, we need to get buy-in, we need to get money, so that's going to be spring. And if you put a deadline on it, it's more likely that you will actually achieve it, all right? I mean, I don't know how you work, but I only work by deadline. If I don't have a deadline, it doesn't happen, right? And so giving yourself some deadline will make you accountable for those goals. I give you a little workbook, and those are reminded in there. So when we get to writing those goals, these will be provided to you. But before we write those SMART goals, we need to do a brainstorming session, because writing goals is actually hard. Like if cold like you are now after traveling all day, and it's like, okay, what are your goals? It's kind of scary and kind of oh, that seems challenging. I don't know. I need to think. And so what we're going to do, we're going to do a brainstorming session that's often used actually in the industry. When they're trying to come up with new things, they use this strategy called how might we, ... And there are several types of questions that you can ask yourself. And it's kind of shifting your ways of thinking. And it makes you think about different point of views and different questions you can ask yourself. So it's just brainstorming, no goals. It's like thinking through how might we remove problems, leverage something that's working for us. How might we question some assumption? And so there's several different types of how might we that you can do that will help you think about different aspects of your program. And once we have done this brainstorming session, this question you will have developed will help you narrow down the goals that you want for your program. And so part one is just to think about this, how might we? And so you have a little workbook on your table, and I give you some examples that are TA training program related, just to give you a sense of where you can start. And so what I want you to do is in your team of 2 for 10 minutes, you're going to work through this. And so you can use your workbook to write on it. That's what it's for, just to brainstorm your ideas. Does that make sense to everybody? So just brainstorm what you want to do. And go through this series of questions that will make you think about different aspects of your program or different things that relates to your program. Okay? And you have like 10 minutes. So I have a little timer here that can help you monitor. And then we will be all walking around and helping you out if you need to. You come up with your own question. This is just examples. Right? So this is, for your program, this is different categories to help you think about different things related to your program. So just example of question.
Should did we post a primer for navigating through last week?
I don't think so. I thought you just gave an introduction.
Sort of walk them through, right?
Just walk them through.
So the big thing that they have to figure out how to do if they haven't used it before is how to get there.
Right.
And that's they have to log into their Gmail account that they gave us.
That would be one way to do it. Which they see that's
and then she also sent out links, right?
Yeah, but I can tell you without putting Emily into our workshop, that basically everyone there, except for maybe 1 or 2 people, everybody has been assigned as a Gmail account. So you can tell them basically start by
logging into your Gmail
account. Then you can pull them up. For example, the way I would do it is I would say pull it up. I don't know how you do it. The way I would do it is I like to, for new people, I like to look, your Gmail looks like this. Click on that 3x3, and then you can click on the drive.
Right.
And then you get to the drive.
Right.
And then what they should be, so there should be something they should see as team. So what ought to happen is if you then type in a search, so you probably have to search, depending upon how much stuff they have, they won't necessarily appear right up on top. They may have to search for it, right? So it's team workshop space, or what's the thing?
Well, I think that what they're going to probably, I'm not sure what level, but there are 4 participants.
I mean, so for example, let's try that. Actually, let's try that.
2015 4 participants.
Okay.
2015 workshop participants. That's the level that I've given them view access to.
Right. Okay.
And then their workspaces.
But let's go up to the top level and just try this. So if maybe it shows immediately.
Well, because I'm in the CSC.
Yeah. Okay. Can you share it with me? Maybe you did share it with me.
You have shared.
Right. Okay. Let's do that. So it's like the worst case scenario would be like me, because
you have a gazillion
things on my drive. So if I do. I'm going to search 2015 workshop because I can't remember everything you said.
Yeah, 2015 workshop should work for you.
If I get tight. Yes, I see it. And then in your list, you ought to say something that says 4 2015 workshop participants.
Right.
And then under that, there's a team workspaces. Then you can walk them through to that team workspaces. And then they have to just.
So let's see. So then if I go to my own.
Yeah. So just do the same thing.
My own JM Girton drive, which is not nearly as complicated, I think, but whatever.
No, but that's fine. So then you do team workspaces, and then you have the template, which is the action plan, which you don't want to talk to them about yet, or maybe you do tonight. When are we talking to them about that? You are talking to them about it tonight. They have to know about that template. Let's see if this aligns with her. Okay, so goals are a little bit early. Or we're talking about assessments here. So I think, do we want to modify this in light of what?
No, they're not going to do this today. They do it tomorrow morning.
See, but you're going to give them the template tomorrow morning.
They have the template.
But you haven't called attention to it, so they're not going to look at it.
Right.
So my question is, when do you call attention to it? After the assessment?
Oh, no, we can call attention to it now.
Right.
Tell them that it's there and say that, though, this is going to be, you're going to have the first reporting session tomorrow morning at 10.
Right.
And, or ish. Oh, actually, that's one of the things that, so unless they're quiet back there, right, Emily had actually asked them to set up outside for the coffee breaks.
Yeah.
So what she was suggesting is that we would do, or maybe it was Erin, I don't remember, is that we use the last 5 or 10 minutes of discussion and the first 10 or whatever of coffee break, so that they get 20 minutes or so, 15, 20 minutes, and then they still have a 20-minute coffee break that's out there. So they get out of the room.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that work?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay,
But it seems to me that it would be better just to have them set up here, because then
we could.
Because then there's all the food there always.
Yeah, yes, I think that makes sense. And she actually was not that disturbing. I mean,
yeah,
the level of food and the breaks that they set up, she was actually pretty.
So are you the guy now?
Yeah,
I think I'm the guy.
He's the man.
So food just gets set up.
Yeah,
Coffee
breaks
breaks
here. And
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
They're setting up for dinner on the outside. I think that things are just going well.
Okay, fine. And then they can just move the chairs back, or we should move the chairs back.
Right.
I can do that too. I can help you.
We're going to let them eat out there.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
Back here? Okay. So, but do we want to actually do
We can have them up there. They can run on the wall. I think it might be faster.
Okay. Yeah, I just, okay. Yeah. I guess like I said, we're a little worried with the Sharpie markers. You just do two. Or they could prepare, or they could do So I think we need
Yeah, especially since
Okay, so we're having a good brainstorming session. I'm going to have to interrupt it. I just want to remind you, we have another whole hour for you to work after this whole session. And so I'm introducing you to various steps. And then when we have the whole hour, you can go back through those steps and finish things up. So I'm just going to have to cut you off now just to move you forward. But you'll have plenty of time to go back and complete what you have started. And so right now you have a couple of different ideas. And so what I would like you to do is to organize your ideas in categories. And there may be some categories, or they may not be. It really depends on what you had in mind. But there may be certain groups. You want your TA to know specific things, or you want your TA to be able to do specific things, or you want them to be more positive about certain aspects of their job. So try to see if there's categories of ideas that you have come up with, and see if you can think about how challenging it is going to be to address those ideas. Right, so those big categories. So if, for example, you have knowledge, skills, and attitude, it's easy to change knowledge. It becomes a lot harder to change attitude, right? And so the level of difficulty, you need to keep that in mind as you're trying to think about what you want to do with your program. Everything, it's not because it's hard that it should not be addressed, but it just tells you it's just going to be, you have to think through about how you will deal with those who are a little bit more difficult than the easy one. Okay, so I'm going to give you just 5 minutes to think, to categorize the ideas you've had and see if there are some that are harder or easier than others. And then
yeah, so I think we've got a lot of active. Yeah. You know, talk about sustaining and reinforcing that's kind of that. You've already shown them.
so I can leave the screen now. All right, so you've thought about the different types of ideas that you brainstorm. Can I have all your attention back? I know you want to talk more and more. I'll give you more time to talk, I promise. So you've thought about the different types of ideas, things you could change, and you thought about how difficult some of those may be and how easy some others may be. And so now I want you to, we're going to take like 10 minutes and we're going to write down those goals. So if you look in your workbook, you have the page like goals for your program. It reminds you of like the SMART thingy. And so use the ideas that you have brainstormed and start writing like specific goals that you have for your program. And those goals, that's what you're going to use for the rest of the workshop to help you think about how to achieve these goals, right? What you need to do to achieve these goals. And so I'm going to give you like 10 minutes to look at your ideas you've brainstormed and actually write down goals that fit the SMART model more or less. Okay? All right, go for it. Oh, and I forgot one thing. One resource that we provided you is this piece of paper. These are examples of goals, and they fit the SMART model. So if you're trying to rack your brain, how could I write this down? And they kind of fit categories that you've seen. Just look at this, and you can use this as an example. You don't have to take it as is, but if you're a little stuck, that may help you. They're just examples about how you can be writing that.
I'm about ready to break up.
I'll forward it. Let me dig it up and email it to you.
What was he?
Just 1 second.
Okay,
It's still recording, right?
It is still recording.
Even though there's nothing.
Yes, it's recording whatever's on the console.
Okay, so I started to navigate away from that, and then I came back because I realized that was probably.
It's going to record whatever's on the console. Yeah.
but it's still secret. Physics stuff, so that it's not acceptable, so that GTA preparation. Why can't it be, we never take the single password is not required. They did it as volunteers. But if they can physics class. It's the team training, because you don't have to train on training, we don't want to train on and then not teach them to swim. But then we can also offer maybe read a paper. What's the optimal way to read a paper? So they will spend hours trying to decipher one question. Instead of like the way it is right now, we have 3 semesters. Instead of 3, because there's stuff that we have to reteach. That's inevitable. But then after that, we need 4 to 5 times. And then I insert this discussion. There's space for discussing the whole but I don't want to get everyone behind this process.
I'm so glad Jody's here.
Yeah, she's fantastic. She's like plugging in there, and she's like mentoring this guy perfectly.
And he's a chemistry guy?
Yeah.
I mean, like he's just meeting somebody pretty high up in ACS.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like awesome.
Yeah.
What did we send her? We got an automatic reply back from her.
She needed to know what the team statement from Northeastern was, because he didn't have TA didn't have all the information about what they were trying to get out of this workshop.
Oh, so I just
sent her a link. Sent her a link.
Yeah, he's coming out. He's gonna. You should watch that kid.
I think he'll be like on fire.
Yes.
So this is just so much better, like getting them right into the skull stuff.
This is fantastic. This is like, I mean, this is like,
Like all the stuff that we were trying to like hint at.
Just ask Marilyn. That's right.
This might be slide, by the way, just in case.
Oh, yeah,
It's an
okay.
issue.
Yep. All right, I'll turn it off.
All right, I'm going to have you stop again. Can I have your attention, please? So many of you, I mean, most of you have at least one goal, maybe two goals. And so, again, in like 30 minutes or so, we're going to give you a whole hour where you can go through this process, like how might we do X, and then what kind of goals is associated with that. So again, and we're just trying to get you through the process so that you can do it on your own for the next hour. So you have much more time to think through this. But what I would like you to do now is to do two things. You're going to share your goals with everybody, right? We're going to do some sharing, and then we're going to provide some feedback. So you're going to write down one or two goals on this piece of papers, okay? And then, so let's say I'm in here, I write my goals, and then I'm going to ask, it's kind of like the speed dating. I'm going to ask you, okay, move along. You go to the next one, you read those goals, and now you pretend to be a TA. That's reading those goals, because those goals are for your TA program, right? So you should share those with your TAs, right? So as a TA, if you're reading that goal, does that goal make sense? Do you have questions about it? Maybe you have suggestions for how to rewrite it or something associated with it. Does that make sense? It's to kind of give you a sense of like how to write those goals in a way that are communicable to other people, especially your TAs, in a way that will make sense to them. Does that work? And I know it's all draft. We all know it's all draft at this point, right? So it's written in a way, so this is part of the process of making them better and helping them moving along. Okay? So what we're going to do, there is a piece of paper for each team. We were able to fit everything here. So there's pens underneath. So you take your little workbook and you go and put one or two goals. We don't have to put all of them on those pieces of papers. Okay, and then when I'll tell you, we're going to do a switch around and you're going to go and review some other ones. Okay? You're going to play the role of a TA. You're reading them? Can I make sense of this? Oh, wait. Can we have...
pens are not dry erase, so please
Oh.
only write on the paper. Recording it all, we know who you are. Only write on the paper.
There's consistency to read.
All right, you can finish your writing and then find your piece of paper with your goals, and then you can take it back to your table and then look over it.
Do we have to take pictures of them?
Yes. I said someone took pictures. I don't know. What do you mean take
Can we
pictures?
take pictures of them before they peel them off?
Of each of them?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
So 5 minutes, 2 minutes. Once your picture is taken, let us take pictures of them all, and then.
Oh, it'd be great if someone could. And that's supposed to.
Yeah, so then we'll get them on the Google Drive.
Okay.
Yeah, I like some of the suggestions on that.
Yeah, I like the suggestions.
Yeah, our biggest one is skills.
You can stroll around, read those that you have not read, if you want, while we take all these pictures. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Everything to the left of Scott here is.
If you're on the left board, you can take it. If you're on the right board, hold it.
Greg, you're gonna snag ours.
All right, if you're on the right board, you can come and take it. All right, you can feel free to come and take yours.
Which? Is that your?
That's my scrawl, yes.
Very much like my scrawl.
UCSD and Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech slackers.
I know. Come on, Georgia Tech.
I might add a third. Let's be, let's just kind of put it out there.
Yeah, but it's very hard.
All right, so what you just did is called a gallery walk. And you can do that with TAs, you can do that with students in your class, but hopefully that this achieves two things. One, you get ideas from others by reading other goals. Maybe that gives you some ideas for your own program. And two, hopefully you get feedback. Everybody was able to provide very constructive feedback to each other that make you think further about your goals. And so when we give you the hour to kind of work through, look at the feedback and then build on it. Hopefully you'll find that helpful. So the last thing I wanted you to think about, and there will be a session later to do that, is to think about opportunities and constraints. So you have all those goals, all those dreams, and there is things that can help you achieve them, those opportunities, but there's also things that are going to get in the way, like money, time, people. Yeah, this is typical tree. No, people, I didn't mean people in that, I mean, enough people to carry things on, not people like, not that way. Or both. I know there's a session right afterward that makes you think about the barriers that you may encounter. And so, but I also want to look on the positive side. There's opportunities. A lot of you in your survey, in your application, you wrote about how there is this momentum on campus to change things, right? So there's an opportunity there and you want to leverage that. And so I want you to think, when you think about your goals, at the opportunities that can help support your goals, and then the constraints that may get in the way, and how you can overcome the constraints and leverage those opportunities. And so I'm saying this now because we are at that hour, although we'll give you a 5-minute breaks probably. But what I would like you to do during the next hour is to kind of really work hard on those goals, having a full draft, not just 1 or 2 goals now, but your whole all the goals you have for the CA training program. You can do that by going through the cycle. How might we? If you didn't go through all the questions, you can go back through that. And then identify constraints and opportunity for each of your goals. think about broadly in your context and what can help you achieve those goals. And if you have barriers, like what things you could do to help overcome them. And then during that time towards the end, I will ask you to kind of share with someone close by. It would be easier to do it that way than what I had planned. You know, share with the other team by you your goals and the opportunities you have that's going to help you and the things you've thought about to overcome some of those barriers. Okay, but I think right now we can do like some break.
Let's do a 5-minute break. There is dinner out there, but we're not going to actually eat it yet. Okay, so don't, as you walk by, you get those beautiful smells, and just come back here and grab a snack. We will eat at 8, 7. 8, maybe 8. 7 o'clock we'll eat. So let's take a 5-minute break, and then please make it 5 minutes because before you all get going on your action plans, which is kind of what we're starting now, we wanted to walk you through Google Drive.
Oh, okay.
Because we want you to really use Google